Okie, and welcome to the Learning Lounge. My name is Wayne Lippa, the 2024 to 2026 U of L Board of Governors Teaching Chair. And it gives me great pleasure to be speaking today with our newest Board of Governors Teaching Chair, Dr. Aaron Taylor. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm Aaron Taylor. I'm in the Department of Drama. I'm a Cinema and Media Studies professor, and I'm really happy to be interviewed today. Thank you.
Oh, well, welcome. That's a great feeling being awarded a teaching chair.
I think so, yeah. It's an odd feeling, and I couldn't help but thinking, after I was standing up during convocation, looking at all those smiling, happy faces about to kind of go off into the next step of the journey, and I was listening to the introductions that were being given. I was thinking to myself, well, I guess now I've got to do this thing because they just told all these people that. So I'm like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? But I'm actually really excited to be taking this on. Yeah.
Great. Well, since you brought it up, why don't you tell us a little bit about your project? What's it all about?
Yeah, it's effectively a way, I think, of trying to inculcate, for lack of a better word, I guess, resiliency. And what I think I mean by that is trying to cultivate an opportunity for students who are incoming and who are beginning, their undergraduate degree to, develop a number of core sort of executive functioning skills that will allow them to thrive and succeed in, this very strange new world that they're entering into. And through that also kind of connect with one another and, develop sort of lifelong, hopefully, friendships and relationships with the folks that are embarking on this kind of journey together as a cohort. So effectively what that kind of looks like is what I hope the university will bite at is a kind of a university one or first year kind of cohort program.
Okay.
And that's, I think, the way to structurally foster in perpetuity, right? This kind of programmatic way to, cultivate students' aptitudes and ability to thrive, right, in this set of circumstances. So I don't know really in the end if resiliency perhaps is the best way to describe it. That's how I like to kind of think of the coherence around this enterprise. Yeah.
I mean, kind of sort of puts in mind just sort of like them being able to kind of come here and sort of kind of part of that hidden curriculum, I think, that you often hear about, sort of like,
I like that.
How you kind of make your way through university, all the hidden stuff that you don't, not just the courses you take, but sort of how you survive through university and how you thrive in university.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know that's been quite a challenge and something that I think a lot of people involved in first year courses and senior admin have been worried about for quite some time. So this sounds like a dream project for
I think so
for the university.
And I mean, it's sort of a little bit surprising to me that we, out of many institutions in this country, don't have one. I think, given the specifics of our region, I think because of the nature of a lot of the students that we attract, and it's also interesting to me that there aren't many programs, to my knowledge, in Canada that do this. There's a small handful. Certainly seems much more prevalent in the States, but I think just by dint of having so many more post-secondary institutions there, I think to me it's the way to ensure that something like this is looked after and stewarded, right, well beyond the 2 years that I'm going to be, in this position. And I think having something sort of identified as a program is the way to go, because otherwise you'll have sort of the usual thing, which is a lot of sort of like grassroots, well-meaning kind of folks that will kind of do it for a little while in a scattershot way, and then either it kind of fizzles out, or there's no ways of ensuring sort of accountability that whatever we kind of develop has a shelf life to it. So I think having something like an identified sort of branded and sort of well-recognized program with precedent to it is something to do. It's it's ambitious. Certainly there'll be costs involved,
especially
right?
going to be university-wide, because a lot of departments or units have their own sort of little cohort. Biology has a cohort. The Indigenous Student Success Certificate is a cohort, that kind of thing.
Of course.
So, but yeah, if you, as you say, kind of their own little things, and if you can make it university-wide,
that's exactly it, right? And so what I'm thinking about is trying to synthesize already pre-existing, initiatives, and centralizing a little bit, sort of taking, from here and there. Ultimately, when I do sort of large-scale group projects, I mostly sort of like putting people in a room of like-minded individuals with a similar kind of idea in mind, and just kind of seeing what happens, really. So, like, none of these ideas are new, and they're certainly not my own ideas. And even talking about resiliency or executive functioning, I mean, I'm just kind of scratching the surface of this thing. It's the most complex, but also the most direct and simple way to tackle the problem, if that makes sense.
A weird paradox,
yeah, complex insofar as it's going to take a lot of different collaborations between a lot of different folks in different facets of the university. But I think simple and direct insofar as kind of conceptually and structurally easy to imagine. And again, there's pre-existing structures for it. So I don't think we're really interested in reinventing the wheel. It's just saying, okay, well, how can we modify this existing kind of program that's been in place for a while, successfully in a number of different institutions, and how that would function in this particular university.
So what made you decide to, like, basically apply for a board of teaching chair and kind of take on this massive university-wide, first year project, basically, as opposed to maybe just kind of keeping it, local to your area?
Right. Or you put it in those terms, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I mean, I think two basic reasons. I have taught an introductory cinema studies class since 2007. I teach it twice a year, every year, and there's 120 students per section. So I've worked with like thousands and thousands of students who are entering into their first year of university. So it is a pedagogical experience that I feel very strongly about, and also have had probably the most kind of experience, teaching, quantifiably speaking. And so I have a lot of interaction with students just kind of beginning their journey here. So that's one. And secondly, I really want to ameliorate what I hear from a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my students as being the ever sort of increasing challenges of weathering that first year transition, which anecdotes are not evidence, but you hear a lot of declarations, both from students and from colleagues, about I think the intensity of this transitional difficulty that people are experiencing. And we can talk about things like attrition rates and and those things in terms of data that might correlate to this. And I don't have the cross-institutional knowledge to make any sort of sweeping grand statements along those lines, but certainly I'm mostly propelled by this kind of like overwhelming abundance of sort of like anecdotal, concern. And not just from the usual kind of like professorial grumblings about, behaviors that they wouldn't have imagined, 10 years earlier in my career or such and such, right? It's also prompted largely by a sympathetic concern by students who, report to be really struggling with things, or querying some things that, yes, if, admittedly, I would be taken aback by and wouldn't have imagined would be that pronounced, say, 10 years earlier in my career. And, we can point a lot of fingers at larger kind of like, social, cultural, economic, technological confluences around, say, COVID pandemic, which many people seem to pinpoint as the accelerant. But it's certainly not the cause of a lot of these things, right? But certainly the stories and the testimonies, I think increase in number and intensity. I think it's very, you're nodding already, so I think
Oh yeah, I've seen it too. Yeah.
we're speaking, you're sharing my love language,
Yes.
or maybe my concern language about this, right? So I think, really wanted to do something, I think, constructively about it. And I think rather than sort of hand waving and moralizing or sinking into despondency or blaming this, that, and the other thing, I can't say that what's being proposed here is going to be a catch-all solution, because the problems are so complex. And there's a lot of kind of different factors at play, of course. But I think this might help in some kind of way. So
yeah, because we want them to succeed. We want them to come here and stay here and
yes, of course,
carry through. And then,
of course, yeah. And I think for me, I mean, many people I think maybe will have different motivations about this. I think for me, because I really like people, I like people a lot. I like working with people. I like talking with people. I like learning from people. And so for me, really, it's the social piece that for me personally is kind of what motivates me and what I see as kind of the heart of this enterprise. And even within what I'm just beginning to understand from research on resiliency and executive functioning, a lot of this stuff develops through social interaction rather than sort of like cognitive calisthenics, right?
Yeah.
That you're undertaking. So I really want people to bond and develop kind of mutual, reciprocal, resiliency or fortitude and care and empathy, however we want to construe that particular term. I really want students to care about each other and for each other above and beyond, I think, almost anything else they're going to do here. I think that's increasingly vital.
Yeah, because
it's increasingly vital.
It just makes it so much easier to get through university when you have a cohort, a group of friends. Like I'm an introverted person by nature, but even going through university, I had a group of friends that we carried through the years together, and that made it so much better.
Yeah,
just having those people there to kind of support me, and I could help them, they could help me. And
so I think there's that help piece, right? And that cheerleading piece and that shared experience piece where like, I'm going through this too, right? I just learned something allegedly that was attributed to C.S. Lewis, the novelist. And allegedly, according to somebody I was at a conference with, he said, the first sign of friendship is a recognition of, oh, me too.
Okay,
right? And so I think that's part of this as well too. But it's not just, I think, a self-interested sense of resiliency where like I have to get this degree and I have to make it through and things need to be less harder for me. I think it's outward directed ultimately, where people will be taking what I hope will be a community and communal and empathetically oriented approach to their learning and then take it outwards, right? And so this is something that I really try to impress upon in the classroom, which is this is a social learning environment, and indeed the whole enterprise behind your, the attainment of one's degree is to, do something that will improve, wherever it is that you're going afterwards, right? And so I really want this piece to ensure that that communal model is cultivated. So yes, one could adopt a kind of, let's call it year one program, which is kind of like individualistically oriented, like I will sign up for, I can talk about the mechanics of this in a second, but like really what I hope the institution will bite at is a cohort model, is where a group of students moves through the program together. And you get that, of course, in some, obviously, in disciplines, arguably sometimes more concentrated in others. But I think the neat thing about this is that it will be inherently interdisciplinary. Yeah. Because you've got, people from all over the place, right? And I think also that's so crucial and part of that educational piece where it behooves us to connect students from across disciplinary traditions
We are a liberal education institution.
That's
so
exactly it. That's exactly it, right? So, like, maybe I'll just kind of close by saying, and maybe I'll predict the question, and it's just say, like, basically for those who are unfamiliar with the year one kind of cohort model, I mean, one kind of core facet, of course, is that sort of University 101? How do we, how do you adopt kind of traditional kind of learning skills and study skills and writing skills and those types of things? That's always at the core of it, and it is a 4-credit class. It's a 4-credit class. You don't do it in addition to, because you know
they've got enough going
got
on.
enough going on. There's minimal kind of incentive. So, these are those kind of general, again, I keep saying the word executive function skills that you are kind of developing, and then you are obviously going to be helpful in all of your courses. So that's one thing. Part 2, sometimes it's a 2-course model. And the second course is oftentimes you hear things like in semester 2, it's like, leadership, or different things like that. Or maybe here it's, liberal, like LibEd 1000. It could be any number of things, right? So sometimes it's a 1-course model, sometimes it's 2. And then surrounding that, you have a number of kind of cohort building activities, whether it's sort of like book clubs or, shared kind of programmed, activities. Here, this can be rolled into the development of their My Experience kind of transcript, right? So that piece kind of gets built up strategically and structurally at the same time. And again, the other kind of factor is either you'll do this at a full course load or a purposefully reduced course load, right? So especially if you're just like, okay, I'm just gearing up, I'm not quite sure about, taking this on, right? You kind of self-identify which model that you kind of want to take.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of the bare bones of what those pieces kind of look like.
Yeah, that does sound complex.
Yeah, it does. And of course, you'd need instructors to kind of teach whatever, right? But I think the way that we start this thing is we start it kind of small. Start small with a cohort that is, I don't know, I don't have a number in my head that that would make sense. Certainly maybe like 24 kind of tops, right? Maybe you have one section, maybe it's kind of 2, and then that makes it affordable enough to kind of like see how it goes and then build on it from there, right? I think, structurally that's kind of what I had in my mind based on the very irresponsible canvassing I've done of many other programs yet in a very unsystematic way.
But it's a starting point at least.
It's a starting point,
See what else is out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Sounds good. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about you.
Sure.
Now you have told us a bit about yourself already. You've told us about the first year courses that you teach.
Right.
So maybe you can let the viewers know also, say, what other courses do you teach, and maybe what your area of expertise or research is too.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a cinema and media studies professor. I mean, my drilling down into that, I tend to focus on mostly sort of contemporary media. If I were to periodize it, I typically look at sort of American, but obviously not exclusively. And then from there, kind of like area of expertise, I do performance and acting is I'm pretty well established in that field. And my kind of methodological or theoretical framework that I do is sort of cognitive theories. So I'm interested in sort of, relationship between movies and mind, and looking at kind of like the ways in which the formal components of media are sort of processed, understood, recognized, and responded to by viewers in a whole body-minded kind of sense. I have an alter ego. I have a secret identity, which is I also do comics. And particularly kind of superhero comics. Yeah. And that's like very kind of separate from this kind of project. And that's mostly kind of a cultural studies approach to comics and the readers and viewers that kind of respond to them in sort of fanish kind of configurations. So,
do you teach any courses on comics?
Not yet.
I'm a comic book collector.
Oh, so. Right. Oh, we need to share, like compare collections. Not exclusively. I have a class that I came to the university with way back in started in 2005. And I'm doing it on and off again ever since I started here in '07, and that's a popular narrative class.
Okay.
And that's a class that I look at sort of all forms of media, sort of popular novels and fiction, comics, TV shows, video games, virtual tabletop gaming like Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing,
Okay.
and film, of course. And so that's the one where comics gets treated
Okay.
on. And sometimes comics comes up, and I teach a contemporary American cinema class where occasionally there's a unit on transmedia relationships between the media industry and the comics industry. And
especially now with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and
sure.
the DC Cinematic Universe, and the TV shows based on comics too.
So I've done some research on that. I have a few publications out on that relationship. Yeah, so those are the kind of areas that I look at. And I've taught a lot of classes since beginning my full-time teaching career in 2003. I think I've developed, I think it's 16 or 18 different classes.
Wow.
So quite a few. Mostly the ones here that I do is the American class. I've got a film authorship class that looks at sort of the notion of the director and the as author and auteur. So we look at sort of major kind of filmmakers. What else do I look at? Occasionally, every once in a while, I teach a class on documentary cinema. Got a very long-running one on crime fiction and film noir as a genre class.
We really dive into into film and others.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll just kind of close by saying more recently, I've got a 4,000 level upper senior seminar class on film acting and screen acting, which I really enjoy a lot. And a new, more recent love that I'm kind of cultivating, not very good at it yet, but I'm really fascinated by it, and I think is really, really important, is video essay making, what we call videographic criticism. So doing kind of scholarly work through, scholarly visual essays. So think of a YouTuber, but with citations, and being research oriented, right? So. And the whole gamut, I think, of kind of adopting this kind of familiar model that almost every student knows who spend any time on YouTube, and say, okay, what does that look like when you make one as a scholar, right? In a research oriented, video essay, as we call them. So starting up a brand new class this coming year, very nervous and excited about it. But I'm co-teaching with my really brilliant PhD student that I'm supervising, Derek Novosad, who we developed this kind of course together, and he's a filmmaker, and I'm really excited to be doing this one for the first time.
Yeah, because we're getting away from the traditional sort of write an essay and submit it, and you see so many different kinds of assignments that students can submit. The instructors now allowing students to submit, and video essays being one of them. So it's just kind of basically riding the wave into the future.
Yeah. And I hope that's going to be play a considerable role in myself working with my really good colleagues in the fine arts. We've had a long gestating BA Cinema and Media program that is just now being considered by the government, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if they like it, will be introduced with student intake in September 2026.
Okay.
So we've been working on this for a very long time. It's gone through all the institutional and Quality Assurance Council hurdles, and now it's just being looked at for that final bit of governmental scrutiny, and we're really excited, hopefully, to taking in a cohort of about 24.
Okay.
Is
what there'll be a lot of interest in that.
I hope so. It's been something I've been dreaming about for like a decade. So I'm really happy that it seems to be coming to fruition, and I think in that program, we're really kind of looking at not necessarily training art moving image makers. Or directors or filmmakers, but rather I think folks that are looking at social diagnostics and cultural analysis through mediated means. So yes, you get the good old-fashioned stuff that I love, which is traditional writing, right, and reading and stuff. but also there's built into this program opportunities for gaining a modicum of creative and technological training that they're going to be putting into these kinds of pieces like videographic criticism. So I'm really excited for this coming online.
Yeah, and then they can take those kind of skills also into the real world too.
Yep.
And
Yep. So
become like the filmmakers of the future.
I think so, and certainly the really kind of like smart, astute, adroit, conscientious, empathetic, politicized YouTubers of the future, right?
Wouldn't
like
that be nice? Yeah.
Exactly, right? So, and there's a lot of them out there already, and so I think this is something that when I think of the ideal student, right, is who would be really kind of jazzed about this program. So there's a big plug for September 2026 coming online. Please enroll at the U of L, BA Cinema and Media Studies. Watch this space, right? Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of the gamut of stuff.
You've taught a lot of courses,
Yep.
so you've been developing your teaching philosophy over the years. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your teaching philosophy?
I was kind of looking for a keyword when I was first, developing it. When you put this kind of thing together, and I kept coming back to communication and dialogic relationships, which is to say, kind of reciprocal two-way exchange between the students with whom I collaborate and myself. I can't pretend that I'm always successful at that, but I think in my head, my heart, that's what I always have going. Like I want it to be a conversation. Learning is conversation. And that has taken different iterations over the years as I learned more about the scholarship of teaching and learning, as different, pedagogical models develop, right? I think that dialogic impulse has evolved and taken on different configurations, but I think that core of it has remained. I'm always kind of horrified if I ever hear on course evaluations that like I talk at people or that I'm closed off, or like that. Those ones really kind of, I get them occasionally, and I always like tear myself up over like, what was I doing that day where I shut somebody down, or they felt like they couldn't, because I really aspire to the opposite of that. And it's hard because I'm a talker, as you're seeing in this video, right? And I tend to sort of like think by talking, unfortunately. And so, but I do also really want to try to listen and try to cultivate an opportunity where students inquire and think through this kind of like interaction. And it's not just with me, but with each other, right?
Yeah.
And so over the years, when I first started kind of full-time teaching in 2003, and you're just kind of doing that traditional lecture model that, you're so used to, we're here, the so-called, sage on the stage model, and just kind of slowly moving towards a much more kind of like group work oriented classroom. And it's largely the teaching center that has helped me and nurtured me through this. And, Jan Newberry in particular was a huge inspiration.
Especially for like a large classes, doing that in large classes, which can be difficult to do.
Yeah, so I don't think I'll ever go back. And not every student loves it, right, obviously, but it takes a lot of, I think, work. It's very complicated to manage those relationships and to create a system where that can work kind of effectively. I think we got to do it. I think everybody's got to do it. I think we're in trouble if we don't figure out a way to.
It makes it a little more collaborative, and it gets students tend to be more actively engaged when they're actively engaged in the learning, as opposed to just sitting there and listening. Yeah.
And I mean, as a film guy, I really like sitting and listening. That anytime you go to a traditional film or a television show, of course, that's what you're doing, is you're sitting and listening. And I think, but even there, that theorization of traditional media as being sort of passive, that a lot of people sort of like impulsively take on, because of course it feels like it's passive, like you're sitting there looking at something in a period of kind of stillness. But I think drawing from a really kind of excellent, adaptation scholar by the name of Thomas Leach, right? This was a real kind of breakthrough for me when I was studying adaptation Oh yeah, I teach adaptation classes too, on top of everything else way back.
Oh, wow.
So, he calls engagement with narrative, which I'm deeply interested. I really love narrative. That's my jam. As transactional, right? So even if you're reading a book, right, or any kind of like so-called sort of passive enterprise, right?
Yeah.
It is a forum for conversation and thought. And cognitively speaking, you're doing a ton of like conscious work when you're processing this, a ton of inferential work just to comprehend and process that narrative discourse. Making predictions, testing hypotheses, scrutinizing and evaluating your own response to these. Now, of course, you're doing those things. So all media forms are sort of transactional in that space, in that sense. So even in a going back to our original, bringing this up, right? Even in a lecture, for as passive as one might construe that to be, of course it's transactional, right? You're taking notes, you're thinking about, right? Like, is this true? And like, wait a minute, I'm not really sure I understand that. Can you get it right? Yeah. So, but I think we need to, coming full circle, train people to recognize these transactional extensions towards us.
Okay, yeah.
Rather than being like, this is boring because it's not responding formatively to my input, right? I can't transform the form of what I'm experiencing. I am not, so I have to just sit here and like take whatever is kind of happening. So I think part of my love for traditional media is this opportunity to have this new experience, right? Meet these new virtual people, and also by extension, the culture and the people that made this thing. It's an opportunity to know how someone else kind of thinks, feels, understands, believes. And so that's something I want to really try to get people to kind of excited about and to recognize. So even in the most sort of like boring, slow set of circumstances, their scrutiny and their attention is still kind of cultivated, right?
Yeah.
They're
still getting actively engaged.
I think so, right? And the litmus test for this is a type of cinema that's been referred to a while for as slow cinema. These deliberately really, really quiet, still, long periods of silence. Camera's just sitting there, kind of looking at something, and maybe two people are just in a room being quiet to get right. And so, a lot of people kind of lose their mind. Like, it's so boring. Watch it on 2 times speed, right? So it's like I think reattuning people's receptivity to their situation. Especially those people like myself who get really antsy very very soon and very quickly. So I'm really kind of preaching to my own inner kind of choir here. So. Yeah, I don't remember what the original kind of question was, but I think, teaching philosophy, right? So I think in the end, this kind of dialogic kind of community of care that I think really is at the heart of everything that we're doing here. And that for me is what I aspire towards as a pedagogue and as somebody who really is delighted to work with a new room full of new faces many times every year.
Oh, that is deep.
I don't know. It's just I mean,
that develops over time.
I hope so. Or the last thing I would want to see is calcification, right? Is to become inured to that novelty of experience, especially when you teach the same class twice a year every year. You're like, here we go, right? This tendency to keep yourself off of autopilot, right?
So, hopefully. All right. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having this awesome exchange. In the meantime.